Welcome to the latest edition of A Mugful of Marketing, your regular dose of brews and views from across the world of marketing. I'm Barnaby, Managing Director of 199 Agency.
I'm James, Director of Digital and co-founder.
And today, we're going to be talking about the US banning TikTok.
Talk of the town.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be looking at what's happening, why it's happening, the kind of what happens next.
And should you care?
Should you care, and what you should be doing right now to kind of mitigate the impact of that.
Yeah, it does feel like we've spoken about TikTok a lot recently, but this is a hard one to ignore, and it's something that a lot of people have been asking us about, so let's get into it.
Yeah, so I guess we will start with kind of what's happening at the moment. As we record this, the House of Representatives has just passed a bill that requires ByteDance, which is the company that owns TikTok, to sell the company to a non-Chinese based company, or it's going to face a ban in the US.
So why is that happening?
Essentially, ByteDance is seen by the US as too closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party. And they see that as a risk. You know, there are fears that the Chinese Communist Party is collecting sensitive data and could be using that to forward its own kind of political agenda. And that's seen as a big threat in the US. Essentially, they worry TikTok's a tool of the CCP.
So what's the likelihood of this actually happening then?
I mean, that's hard to say. I guess it's a real threat to TikTok at the moment. You know, the bill itself has had fairly good cross-party support. It went through the House. It's now going to be going to the Senate vote. In terms of Biden's already said that if it hits his desk, he's going to sign off on it. So he supports it. A majority of Republicans and Democrats support it. So you'd think that potentially it could go through. Whether it goes through the Senate, we'll see. But it could have a real impact on the potential, the 170 million TikTok users in the US.
It's been banned or tried to be banned in the past, hasn't it, as well, I think?
And the reason that those bans have failed so far, so Trump tried to ban it in 2020, and the defense, I think the lawmakers in the US said that they couldn't do that based on the First Amendment rights, your right to free speech. And then when one of the states tried to ban it as well, I think that was potentially Michigan. They tried to ban it as well. And again, the courts knocked it back on First Amendment grounds. So even if it goes through the Senate, there's likely to be a significant kind of appeals. I'm sure TikTok's lobbying people right now, and they're going to be hammering that as the defense. They're going to be saying this is a violation of First Amendment rights. Yeah,
and it's stirring up a real freedom of speech versus censorship kind of debate, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And whether that, balancing that against the kind of the national security fears and the fears of kind of foreign governments using people's data in ways that the users potentially wouldn't want, and neither does the US government.
So off the back of this news, understandably a lot of people, clients, friends, everyone have been asking us whether or not this is something we're preparing for. Mm-hmm. Is it something they should be preparing for? So I think the first thing to look at there really is that it's easy to panic when things like this happen. You've spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources. You've cultivated communities on a platform, and then the risk of it all being taken away does start making people freak out a little bit. But I think it's important to realise that if you're actually good at marketing, then you need to kind of embrace the possibility of change. Ultimately, we go where attention is. That will change. It continually evolves, and there's opportunity in chaos.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that things change. There have also been other bans on TikTok that have been more successful. So you look at India banned TikTok for different reasons. They were talking about the sort of damaging trends and challenges that were a threat to people. But when they banned it, there was an immediate shift in terms of the audience to its competitors, to Instagram and to YouTube. So I guess that should inform your strategy as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got to look at the user behaviour. People use TikTok in a certain way, and at the moment, that's a need that's being fulfilled. They'll still need that to be fulfilled by something, and that might evolve over time. But in the short term, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, they provide a similar fix if you're really into your TikTok as a user, and those 170 million US users will likely want to go somewhere.
Yeah, they're likely already on those platforms.
They are. So you've got to follow the attention. I saw something the other day about someone saying that if it was in the 1950s, would ultimately be kind of championing TV advertising or kind of, other types of advertising. So you just got to go. You've got to go where the attention is.
So what about TikTok itself? Should we just stop using it? I mean, you can't use it in China.
No, but to stop using it is ultimately to remove a very important cog of a bigger marketing machine. Mm-hmm. There's active users on there. If your niche is active there and it's somewhere that you've prioritized, you shouldn't hit eject before the plane crashes.
Yeah, I guess there's also, even if it does crash and it is banned, it's what does that ban actually constitute? Is it just people, they can't have it on the App Store anymore?
Well, it does depend on how it looks, because if it is pulled off app stores, that obviously does put a huge impact in user behaviour. I know people still use VPNs to access it in India, but ultimately, as a cultural trend, it has had an impact on it. So,
well, it's banned in a lot of universities as well in America already. It's banned. You can't, if you work in government, you can't have it on a government-issued phone. I don't think that's really stopped it.
No.
But a broader ban could have a real impact.
Yeah, I think so. Overall, I would say carry on using it if it's important for you. This might not actually come to anything.
Yeah.
It could just all well be political flexing. And if it does come to something, don't fear change. Embrace it, find opportunity in it, and make sure that you're safeguarded with everything else that you're doing online and you've not got all of your eggs in that one basket. Yeah,
that's the big one, isn't it? We talked about it on a previous episode on the importance of owning your own audience. If it's on a third-party platform, it could be taken away at any time. Exactly. And if your entire business model is dependent on that single platform, you're really vulnerable to stuff like this.
Yeah, so let's see how it all plays out.
Yeah, okay, so the kind of conclusion is the US government seems to want to ban TikTok. And yeah, whether it happens, we don't know. But yeah, there's things that you can be doing now to mitigate that impact. So great. Thanks for joining us for this episode of A Mugful of Marketing, and join us next time for more brews and views from across the world of marketing.
Cheers.